know. Alina's not here. 5 minutes late. Too bad. Okay. So you guys got your homework. Do you guys have this week's homework with you? Okay, I'll take the government too. Got it. Thank you. This week's homework. It hurts to cough. It's that bad, huh?
It's not bad. Wednesday was the worst. I got like super cold. I was under like 10 blankets and it still wasn't warm. And then I woke up and I had a fever.
Well, what you need to do is you need to see, you take a blanket and you put it in the dryer. Warm it up.
So smart.
And then.
I would have thought about that one like on Wednesday or something. You know, when I was like, dying.
That always helps. If you have that warm blanket to wrap up in. So, here's your work and then get your stuff out. That'd be great. So this current events. So of course, the first one that comes up is fingers crossed, so refreshed. I am Bill Clinton's son. So that's kind of interesting with this political stuff going on. The other one is, of course, I didn't read the article. I don't really care. I'm not going to vote for Hillary either way. So I just thought it was amusing, especially that it's the lead article on Drudge. Election stress, fever pitch. Are you guys feeling stressed about the election?
Yes.
You guys like not sleeping?
No, I just think it's stupid.
Having nightmares?
I'm having nightmares about the clown thing.
Oh, the clown thing? Yeah, I heard about that.
My brother kept talking about clouds, and I was like, clowns, not clouds. Sorry. My brother kept talking about clowns, and I was like, where did you hear that from? And I'm like, I don't know.
I literally like that these days so much.
There was what, clown scare at Firestone High School, I think?
Yeah.
On last week?
And courts of Hudson, Palmer Falls.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's something about some strange clown cult down in the Carolinas that are trying to kidnap kids.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, that's scary.
That's fun. I'm honestly like, I might.
My brother and his friend and his friend's wife were driving to Indiana to meet us at a camp stand, and they saw some guy driving down the highway. He's in a bit of a truck with a clown mask.
That's cool.
It's like what? It's like
Well, you guys ever seen the
I would
movie
shoot them.
Scream?
No.
I can never come out of my house again, so unless I have to come here.
Well, that was the rage after the movie Scream, was that they would run around in the Scream mask, or Friday the 13th run around in the hockey mask. So it's
Yeah, you're thinking Friday the 13th falls on Thursday.
Okay, my birthday was on a Friday last year, and you're like, you know why it's called Friday the 13th? Because you were born on.
Oh.
Yes, you did. I was like, oh.
Goodness.
what was that?
That was last
Oh
year. It was
no,
really
that
fun.
was a music reference class.
Oh, geez. Totally.
You made me pay for that, right?
Uh-uh.
No, I didn't. I at least got a free meal out of that.
Yeah,
I
that was
should've.
mean. I can't believe I said that.
I don't
So,
care.
the other one is that I love this. They blame Palin. Obama, it started with Palin. Does that mean blame it on Sarah Palin? Or the fact that Sarah Palin got picked on so much, that's why all this? Because during the election, when it was McCain and Palin versus Obama and Biden back in 2008, the election was Tina Fey did this impersonation of Sarah Palin. So there's always this quote of attributed to Sarah Palin where she said, "I can see Russia from why why should she be qualified for foreign policy? Because she could see Russia from her house. Well, she never said it. Sarah Palin said it. But everybody thinks and attributes it to Sarah Palin saying it when it was Tina Fey making fun of Sarah Palin saying it. So you got to be careful in today's day and age of who you listen to when saying things. Something now has been attributed to Sarah Palin that was said by a comedian. So, couple other things that were interesting. Of course, the NFL fan wearing the gorilla suit running on the field. I think he gained more yards than the Cleveland Browns. Let's see. Still problems going on around the U.S. These up here, video shows an angry mob attacking a patrol police car. When the high shouts of "We run the streets," mayor, house, car, egg. Kim Kardashian got held up in Paris. They stole about $10 million worth of jewelry from her. So my question on that one was, did they get it on tape, so that they can make it part of the Kim Kardashian show? Just, could it be a stunt? Yeah. Obama Syrian refugee tallies in 2016. 12,486 Muslims were allowed into the country and only 68 Christians. University offers course for men to deconstruct toxic masculinities. Okay. Walmart shoppers forced to stay in store for 5 hours after man shot dead in parking lot. That would stink to have to stay in a Walmart for 6 hours.
Especially if you're like it.
I always get lost
Yeah,
in Walmart, like still.
It was actually fun. You can play
Whenever I
with it.
go with my family.
It would be an ultimate game of hide and seek at Walmart. That was so fun. Wait, where was this Walmart?
Who knows?
I hope not Ohio, because I would be drop scared.
Why?
Lauderdale Lakes. This is not far from where my parents live, actually. Down in South Florida.
Mom's doesn't let me watch this stuff because she's afraid I might get scared.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who's your faith in? Who's your trust in?
God.
Okay, then why should you be afraid?
I'm not afraid.
Okay, good.
It's not in Ohio anyway.
Yeah. Oh, here's Google. Black people cannot be racist against whites. True?
You look at me.
Yeah.
No.
She's picking on you. She's getting you back. She's getting you back.
I think that they can be racist.
Well, I think it's how you define the terminology. What is racism? And in the United States, racism is the oppression of another person based on their skin color. So, can blacks, based on that definition, can blacks be racist against whites? No, they can't, because the way the system is set up, it really does, in many respects, favor whites. Because a lot of the political structure is controlled by, whites. A lot of, not all, but there's a lot of businesses that are controlled by whites. So you have, it would be in that sense. Now, but I define racism as, I think we need to define racism as a personal choice and how you treat other people. When I worked for the city, I had a friend who had been discriminated against because of his skin color. And when we talked, his comment, and it stuck with me for a long time, he goes, you will never end group racism. You will never end group racism. The reason being is when people get in groups, they naturally act a certain way that matches the group. We as Christians tend to discriminate against non-Christians. We expect them to act a different way. And I always tell people, well, why are you surprised when a non-Christian sins? They're a non-Christian. We should be surprised when a Christian sins, not when a non-Christian, right? So same thing here. He said, when you break down racism is actually when you get one-on-one individual relationships with people. That's when racism starts to break down. And we as Christians, we shouldn't be group thinking. Christians should be individual only. The reason being is salvation, there's no such thing as group salvation. There's no such thing as you're saved because your family, your mom and dad are saved. No, you have to make a personal choice. Same for all of you. You all have to make that personal choice, right? Okay. So same thing here. This is why, as Christians, we should try to get out what we would call group think. You need to think as an individual. You need to think differently than the group. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. And it was really, this guy was absolutely brilliant just because of his life experiences and learning from things. And he was a Christian, and because of that, he understood human nature. He knew that man was a sinner, and as a black person, he knew it was his role to forgive. And because he's called as Christ to do that. And so, like I said, I learned a lot from him about that perspective, but of course, you know, we can't be in somebody else's perspective. I can't be in your shoes. You can't be in my shoes. You don't know what I've been through. I don't know what you've been through in your life. And we get too much into this group mentality. And that's one of the problems that we have with these things here, with these mobs, is because that we're getting stirred up in this idea of it's us versus them. Or it's blacks versus the police officers. Or it's blacks versus whites. You know, what is it? And as Christians, we can't be that way. It's not, Paul clearly says, what? Our battle is not against flesh and blood, it's against what? Anybody remember? Yeah. So we don't really have a right to join in on this, especially if these protests are violent. We cannot do harm to another, especially out of revenge. The Bible's clear about that. So it'll be interesting to see. But in a sense, yes, everybody is. I think we just need to come to the understanding, because we're all sinners, we're all at some point or another racist. I mean, that's clearly biblical, because we all, and now we, like all sins, we all struggle with them at different levels. So how you deal with that is, again, on a personal level. How you treat people. Do you give favoritism? And so I think that's what we really need to be in this, is being more self-reflecting rather than accusing. Where do I stand? And that was a lot of Martin Luther King Jr. was peaceful protest, self-reflecting, following God. His famous I Have a Dream speech. You know, he had this vision of an America where everybody, you were not judged based on your skin color, but on the what? Anybody remember? The content of what? Yeah, your character, your heart. That was the vision. Unfortunately, we've moved away from that. And it's sad, and it's not gonna get better because the protests aren't focusing in on the truth and God. They're focusing in on hatred and anger. Hatred and anger will always lead to more hatred and anger. Which is why I'm starting to turn away from watching like football, because I'm tired of these guys who, don't make sense.
Actually, I think I saw a news story somewhere that, who did the Browns play yesterday?
Washington
I
Redskins?
think there was
We won.
The Washington Redskins? Oh, you're a Redskins fan?
But I guess like one of their players was wearing like anti-police cleats or something like that.
Oh, were they?
I can't remember.
I'll have to check that
What does
out.
that mean?
It would probably be cleats that were, maybe some symbolism for Black Lives Matter, or or maybe some of the more anti-police, stuff. You don't like the scarf?
Sorry.
No. You said it kind of under your breath, I'm like, then why did you wear it? I'm just
No, right?
It's okay. Of course, global warming still continues. We've got this hurricane in the Caribbean. That's clear evidence that, there's global warming because hurricanes have never been this strong before. Yeah, okay. What?
Subway sarcasm.
That's sarcastic.
I am sorry.
It's hard, sometimes it's hard to tell whether I'm sarcastic or not. Illegal alien gang violence terrorizes Long Island town. Crossings to break record, VIP smuggling offered. Ooh, VIP. Or- Illegal alien, not alien as in aliens from another world. Illegal aliens as in people crossing from Mexico or Canada.
Oh, I thought you meant actually aliens.
Okay, so like I'm in
That's
Massachusetts,
Yeah.
and I was actually just by the police station the other day, and I happened to look in where they keep the police cars, and there was a smart car in there, the police car. And it's
Wow.
like, so there was, I guess explorers went over there and like talking to the cops about it. And we asked them like how they got it, but they confiscated it. They pulled someone over and
You pulled somebody over in a smart car?
yeah, because he was like speeding where it was like 19 miles per hour.
Yeah, I know. How do you speed in a smart car? Those things are like tiny.
There's a lot of room there actually.
No, is there?
Believe it or not. And,
Yeah, I just don't want to get in a crash with it.
He didn't have a license, so like they arrested him.
No.
And they noticed on the door panel that there was, like, the screws were scratched. So they took the door panels off. They found 24 pounds of marijuana.
That's twice the weight of the car.
know.
They were.
Don't some cops like pull over some guy in a Corvette and confiscate that and turn it into a cop car?
Yeah.
That would be
That would be
In Miami, in Florida, they confiscate a lot of stuff down in Florida. And, they sell it at auction, so you can get boats, you can get houses, you can get all kinds of things from the police auctions in Florida. I actually think that, and we'll talk more about this in government, but I'm actually against that the confiscation, it's a little shady that they can just take your car because they found drugs in it. What happens if, what's the state if I'm driving, you have a backpack, and you have drugs in your backpack, and I get pulled over in my car, didn't know you had that backpack of drugs, and they can confiscate my car. So, a lot of times drug dealers, they get pulled over, they get caught for speeding, they'll get caught for not wearing their seatbelt.
One, if you don't have a license and you're carrying 24 pounds of marijuana, I would be like right at the speed limit. I would be under the speed limit.
Well, sometimes they pull over.
You would
they'll-
not.
actually,
Like, 30 miles over the speed limit.
Not with 24 pounds of marijuana.
Are you trying to?
So now the thing is, if we notice you're driving the speed limit, we're gonna be suspicious of you.
He was literally going like 90, like he was behind me and then he like came.
No, I wasn't.
You were.
Okay, it seemed like 90.
That was you.
Do you guys have any other political things that you guys came across? Of course, the Browns lost. Anybody see the mysterious fumble that wasn't a fumble that the NFL is now apologizing for?
Yeah. I saw a video about that. It was crazy.
So what happened is on this play in the game yesterday, Duke Johnson, well, it wouldn't load earlier. So,
What was I doing yesterday? Oh, sleeping. That was really fun.
let's see if they,
Whatever.
I just found.
Yeah, Emerson was too.
But I can't.
let's see if they, oh, they got it on the NFL, but I like, the NFL had, if they actually show this, I will actually be surprised. Wow, that's
really
So he goes here, ball pops out.
Foster's floating down, there's a loose ball, it's a
Now, there's a fumble, but there's Duke Johnson, and in his hand is the football. Now watch the referee, she comes running in here. Now Duke Johnson's got the football, she's pointing it in the Redskins' way. It's the first female referee. Yes, first female referee, Sarah. So the NFL came out today and said, well, we looked at it and we couldn't tell where the ball was. It's because it was in Duke Johnson's hand.
Not very big, Foster,
So they all look like they're fighting for the ball.
54. Maybe
So the ball comes out, there it is. But it comes right back to Duke Johnson. You can clearly see he's got the ball.
Yeah, you did.
Back-to-back possessions, yes. We had the fumble from Malcolm Johnson on the previous possession, and another fumble.
So the NFL came out today and said, yeah, there was clearly we couldn't overturn the play because there was no evidence. It's like, okay, this is, again, one of those reasons why I don't want to watch the NFL anymore. I'm so tired of the horrible calling. And then they'll go, well, we couldn't go. No, just say, we messed up. We made a mistake. The Browns should have won the game. No, I'm just kidding.
Is there a video of a guy running on the field in the gorilla suit, like that picture up there?
I don't know. They tend not to film these. The reason why they tend not to film these is because they don't want more people doing it. So that's why you usually see pictures, but you don't see the.
Funny,
Small lives matter.
Look at the guy.
That is
Yeah.
just. Some idiot fan just ran onto the field and was promptly tackled by security. Oh, there it is.
I know it's
Well, of course, it was in Chicago. How much do you think he had to drink? Probably much.
I wanted to
So-
get a video of that.
People are, I just, as I get older, I just marvel at the idiocy of more and more people.
More like stupidity.
So, history. Oh, did you guys have anything else in current events? We covered a lot. No,
I
no.
hope Donald Trump wins the election.
Well, LeBron James just endorsed Hillary,
Why?
which is not a surprise because he's got a good relationship with the Obamas, so it's not a surprise. When LeBron did his big scholarship thing that he's doing at Akron U, the Obamas, or Michelle came in town and was there during this kickoff. The interesting thing that I found out from this, you know, so-called scholarship from LeBron is somewhere I read where he's not donating any of it. It's not costing him a dime. He's actually giving any money. And I'm like, then how is it that this is his scholarship? But I guess it's not uncommon for somebody that's famous that get a scholarship fund going and they not put any money in it. I'm like, okay. So I hope that's not true, but that's something that I hadn't heard. So,
Mr. Sharkey.
yes.
So something funny about the election is that the fourth graders in my dad's Sunday school class can understand that both candidates are terrible, but yet there are these people who are like, Hillary's wonderful, Trump's an angel.
Yeah. What was it? We saw a bumper sticker. It was like everyone sucks this election. Or something like both candidates suck this election, something like that. It was pretty funny.
Pictures of Hillary and Trump, and it was like, out of what, 6 million people, these are the two.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, you know, we had other opportunities to select people.
Yeah, like,
One of the things that I would really love to see done in our primary races is that what you get is you have the primaries you do, and you weed it down to the last two candidates for each party. And then you have an election on one day for both those candidates. And you determine who then will be your party representative. And this happens the week before the convention. And then what would happen is during then you would have your two candidates that would come out and run. Because you might find that Hillary might not have been the nominee either. It might have been Bernie Sanders when it comes to the end. And Trump might not have been the nominee either, because you might have had, with Cruz finishing second, Trump finishing first, you might have seen a lot of the people who were not for Trump vote for Cruz, and you would have seen Cruz get it. But the way we have our primaries, they're built on the idea of momentum. And so you got to win this state, so you can get in there and you can win these different states in different ways. And what we were seeing is Trump was getting a lot of this anti, and then the other guys were getting all of the rest. And so they were kind of splitting up the votes between Kasich and Cruz there towards the end. But we could say the same thing happened a number of years ago, 4 years ago, with Mitt Romney, that Mitt Romney was running and kind of stole the election with the help, well, I shouldn't say stole, but he worked it out so that he could win by keeping a couple other candidates in there, and Rick Santorum did not get enough votes then, and he ended up finishing second. But which Mitt Romney learned his stuff from John McCain. John McCain kind of did the same thing. That's why McCain ended up losing. So, Chapter 5, The Rising Storm. We have what's going on in this is the lead up to the French and Indian War. So you have a number of conflicts going on. Mainly a lot of this is to do with the English and the French don't get along very well to begin with in Europe. So they're battling it out. And some of that spills over here to the United States. Well, of course, we're not in the United States yet. We're the 13 colonies. Some of the names that you're going to want to know is Louis Joliet and Jacques Marquette. And Marquette was one of I think he's in the book, one of the pretty good generals for for the French.
I didn't see that first.
Robert Cavalier, Sieur de la Salle. I know, Sieur de la Salle. I'm horrible with French. I should get my boss can speak French really, really well. He probably would know how to say it. I need to work on my French pronunciation. So, when earlier we talked about how the French didn't start out colonizing the New World. They were mainly coming here for adventure. And now, though, you have this colonization, which really ends up now becoming a competition with the English and them struggling. And that made the French, of course, some of that made a severe threat to the colonies, which were, of course, mainly English. There was some Dutch influence in it, but they were, of course, mainly English. So we end up with the French, and the lead up to this war. Let's see here. There's some good maps here. Okay, a couple of things there. Do you guys remember what were the three factors that made the French such a serious threat? Anybody?
They knew the way that the Indians fought and stuff because they used to have a good relationship with them.
What was that again?
Didn't they have like a really good relationship with the Indians?
Yes.
So they knew them basically inside and out.
Yeah, the French worked better with the Indians. The English did not. Is one of the things. The other thing too is the French and Indians, the failure of the colonies to, the 13 colonies were not united. There was a lot of division between the colonies, so that led to also this idea that made the French easier to attack them. What was the other one? Let's see, Indians killed indiscriminately. The other thing too is the Indians, second factor that worked to the advantage of the French was the nature of the frontier. American colonies had a vague, defined western boundary of isolated farms or villages that invited attack. The dense wilderness, finding the enemy was difficult, and effectively defending the scattered settlements was impossible. So, and not only that, now you've got the fact that you have this clearly defined area. So if you're looking in your book on page 87, you can see there you've got this clear defined line of where settlements are, and the French cover more of this the other area here. But the French is more wilderness, whereas the English are more defined, and they have defined villages, whereas the French did not. If you notice, most of the French their forts are on rivers. And anybody know where Fort Duquesne is?
Oh.
You did.
I forget. Is it near Pennsylvania somewhere?
Yeah, it's in Pennsylvania somewhere.
Pretty much the borderline.
They just blew out, that city just blew out Kansas City last night in football.
Wait,
Isn't it on the borderline?
was it Philadelphia?
No, Pittsburgh.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it was a horrible game last night.
Fantasy football, the other team had them up for the first quarter, you had like 4 touchdowns.
I know, it was horrible. So Fort Duquesne, actually, we know it more as Fort Pitt because it comes later. Not Fort Pitt in the sense of Pitt. It's named after Pitt.
William Pitt?
No, it's funny. That a lot of people. Of course, Cleveland's named after a guy by the name of Cleveland. So,
That's not as funny.
not as funny as Pitt. So one of the things that you have to understand of what the problems are for the French and Indian War. Many believe that really the people that started the French and Indian War was the colonies here in the United States, or here in America. The 13 colonies are the ones that kind of started this war, and which led to more of a world war. So a couple of the feuds that went on during this time was, of course, King William's War, Queen Anne's War, and then, of course, King George's War. So war is a constant thing in this area. Anybody here see the movie Last of the Mohicans?
No.
You can kind of see an idea of how the French and Indian fought. The great depiction of the massacre that took place in during the French and Indian War when the English had surrendered and the French, the Indians attacked the British on their way back. Again, those are the areas. Fort Duquesne, of course, George Washington tries to go to Fort Duquesne. He ends up, yeah. So, yeah, I know. Yes.
I thought the same exact.
And George Washington forms Fort Necessity, which really wasn't a fort. It's like a couple of logs thrown on top of each other, kind of try to protect themselves from. But you can actually go see there. They actually, I think they've restored that area there. You can actually go to Fort Necessity. You know, this is the start of the rise of George Washington and his fame. And, you know, there's a story of the fact that in some of the battles against the Indians, they would be taking aim at him and he would never get shot. He actually, he looked at his coat after one of the battles, and there were 6 bullet holes in his coat, but not once was he ever touched. And there's a thing, one of the Indian generals was talking about, yes, we stopped firing at him because he just couldn't be killed. He was under divine, they really believed he was the Indians believed he was under protection. So really this whole thing starts with, of course, Braddock trying to lead the people to later, or that's actually later. So you actually have the spark, what they call, is George Washington led towards the forks of the Ohio River, site of modern-day Pittsburgh. Much larger force of French soldiers and Indians, however, was waiting at the forks of the Ohio and newly constructed Fort Duquesne. Realizing that he was outnumbered, Washington retreated, ended up losing, where you end up with Fort Necessity. The chief British disadvantage was the lack of unity in the colonies. The Albany Congress attempted to redo that, which was Benjamin Franklin and the Albany Plan. So the Albany Plan, see it listed here at all, for centralized colonial rule, including a president chosen by the king and a Congress chosen by separate colonies. Representatives were to be appointed according to the amount that each colony contributed to the central treasury. So you bought your representation here. That's nice. And then early in the war, let's see. So then you have Braddock. Of course, he tries to go to, he's wounded. Braddock ends up being defeated. And Colonel Washington, of course, again, famous for what, he's really famous. Washington's really famous for like crossing the Delaware and doing certain things. But he's also very famous for a lot of retreats. Retreating from the British, retreating from the French, and doing it in a way that he never really loses his army and stuff. You have the French commander, Montcalm. He's actually, I think he's the general depicted in the Last of the Mohicans movie is Montcalm. It really gives you an idea of I would highly recommend, if you can see that movie, to see it. And it's rated R based on the old rated R standards, which means that today it'd be rated PG-13. But it really gives you a good idea of the relationship with the Indians and the French, and even some, the English were not without their own Indian allies. They had Indian allies as well that they traded with. So some people think that the French were the ones with the Indian allies, but no, the English had it as well. Marquis de Montcalm, again, French commander. British successes, William Pitt, who was prime minister, who Pittsburgh is named after, he was prime minister at the time. Also, another famous person, William Wilberforce, was friends with William Pitt. James Wolfe captured Louisbourg, Fort Duquesne, and Quebec, and that was really what broke the heart out of the French. And then there was the war, of course, the Treaty of Paris. The stage is set for the revolution. They got the high war debt, cost of troops left in the colonies, and then, of course, coming up is Pontiac's War. One of the things that I was reading recently that talked about the American idealism, even back during this time, is that the British did not like some of the American colonists. Now, remember, not all of them were English either. They would actually, if they could, they would sell arms and guns and stuff to the French and the Indians while they're at war at the same time with the English, just because the French or the colonists in some respects wanted to make money. And so they didn't necessarily feel 100% loyalty to the crown, and kind of had this sense of independence already starting at that time because they were so far away from the crown. They didn't feel like they necessarily had to follow the rules. So this is what, again, the high war debt is probably the biggest thing. They didn't feel like the Americans were paying their fair share. Also, the Americans would just disregard, they would smuggle products around to avoid tariffs that the English government was putting on them. So you also get this sense of a nation, and factors that really contribute to this is the geography, the U.S., the colonies being so far away from England, really gives this divide between the colonies and also England. The idea of private ownership. This is why private property is so important in American culture and why in our mind today. Because if you don't truly own what you own, then you're not free. That's why the #1 tenet of communism is there is no such thing as private property. Everything is distributed equally as needed. So what gets distributed equally is misery, because you cannot spread success. Success has to be earned. Unfortunately, people think you can spread success. For those of you who are taking economics, we'll talk about the what would they call, the wealth pie. There's some people who view wealth as a pie, and if you got one group of people that are rich, then they must have had to take money away from another group in order to be rich. This is some of the reasons why we have some of the problems in our inner cities today, and some of the platforms of the Democratic Party is that what has happened is this idea of the rich have taken the money away from the poor, and that's why the rich are rich. No, it's not how. So, who did Mark Zuckerberg take all his money away from when he became a billionaire through Facebook? Who did he steal the money from? He didn't steal the money from anybody. That's the thing that gets missed on with a free market economy. Facebook is an idea. Ideas have monetary value to them. Just like what we talked about, we all have equal economic value and we all have human value. And sometimes we get that mixed up. So also the fact that we are a very diverse nation. We, back then, were a nation of immigrants. You had a lot of people coming over from different parts of the world, the Dutch, the French, the English, the Germans. So there wasn't this sense of loyalty to the English crown, as I was talking earlier. And this idea of strength of self-government. The colonies had a really good government institutions set up. And these were different from the English in many respects because of their distance from England and having to govern themselves. One of the things that we're losing today and why we're also having the problem is that our colonies also believed, again, we watched the video, in the rule of law. Same thing here. We have this rule of law. Now, you can see that what's happening to our culture when you lose your religious underpinnings of Christianity, then law no longer becomes the important thing. And that's why we end up with the protests happening the way they are, and people burning down other people's property, even though that person isn't the one responsible for the things that have happened. Also going on is during this time you have the taxes, the Proclamation Line, the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, the Quartering Act, the Townshend Act. And this leads to a lot of angst here in the United States. Taxation without representation. The idea of smuggling starts happening here in the United States. Well, we'll just sneak around and unload our stuff at a different port, and we'll not pay the fees to the crown. Also, you have during this time the rise of probably three of the most influential people is Patrick Henry. Anybody remember what he's famous for saying? Yes?
Give me liberty or give me death.
Correct. Samuel Adams. Samuel Adams, not the founder of the beer. Samuel Adams was probably one of the biggest agitators. Who is he related to? Anybody know? John Adams. Him and John Adams were related. And Samuel Adams was, he was really what we would call today a community agitator. He was kind of responsible for the uprising and the shooting that happens in Boston. I think that's in the next chapter. The Boston Massacre, is that what it is?
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of one of the ones that is responsible for being involved in that, the Boston Massacre. Do you know who defended the soldiers? They wanted to, have the soldiers hung and so forth. And John Adams was the lawyer who defended the soldiers from the Boston Massacre, which was not very popular. And I got a lot of death threats from that. But because of his relationship with Samuel Adams, he was, of course, not tarred and feathered like a lot of people were. That would be painful. Have hot tar poured on you. It'd be like ripping off of one big large bandage. Just pull all the hair out.
Oh.
Hot wax, yeah, but not as fun.
Stop. No.
So, yeah, I mean, you typically it was poured over your head, so you'd like lose all your hair on your head too.
Oh.
Yes, very, very painful, not very nice. The other guy, John Dickerson, expressed the general reaction to the Townsend Act. And of course, we can't forget Edmund Burke and a lot of his writings. And there's another one I can't think of. I'm drawing a blank on his name. There's another guy that let's see. In America, John Dickerson expressed a general to the Townsend Acts in his letters from a farmer in Pennsylvania to the inhabitants of the British colonies. If Great Britain can order us to pay what taxes she pleases before we take imported goods away, or when we land them here, we are in abject slaves as France or Poland can show. Dickerson argued to his fellow colonists not to give up a single iota of their rights and liberties. So of course you end up with boycotts, Boston Massacre. Some of the best writings, of course, Edmund Burke in the stuff that he's written leads a lot to this, again, pulling apart this sense of a nation. Now, don't undervalue the Great Awakening as well on the spiritual side of this push towards freedom. That there were a lot of people, of course, after the war, which we'll get into later, there was a lot of push for guys, for Washington to be named king. But I feel that a lot of the influence from the Great Awakening on some of these men, like Washington, that they did not want to be a king. They did not want to have a king. But think about the fact that Washington, if he is a man of lesser character, he could have easily become a Napoleon. I mean, we undervalue and underthink that important aspect when it comes to Washington and what a great man he truly was. Because he had the army, he had full control, and he had people in that would follow him to their death in order to set him up as king. But yet he refused it. We probably wouldn't be the great nation we had turned ourselves into if it wasn't for him. So that's it for today. Any questions? We start getting into the Revolutionary War next week, I believe. The Rising Storm. Yes, independence. Ooh, the Tea Party. So you guys have some stuff due next week. We need, I will start sending out some information. I think I might have a slide here. You got a couple minutes. I'll show you an example. We got our project coming up. So, let's see here.
Mr. Sharkey,
Yes.
we're gonna have a tea party?
No, you're not having a tea party.
What the heck's
not?
So we got pictorial essays coming up.
Oh.
So.
It's kind of like that.
So
It was
here's,
Mary Kate's, wasn't it? Oh wait.
might have been.
No, Mary Kate's was Johnny Cash,
Johnny Cash?
wasn't it?
So yeah, so this is kind of an example of a pictorial essay that you guys will be doing. So what you'll do is you'll find pictures and facts about the topic that you want to do. So start thinking about a topic because this is due in 4 weeks. I'll send out more information to you guys.
Do you mean like a person?
It can be a person, it can be a place. This is an example. Gotta be U.S.
Oh, yeah.
So just like any person?
Any person in the United States.
Like from here to like now, from like then to now.
You You could do Hillary Clinton if you
Oh
wanted to. So
Oh.
here, you know, they did Ford, so they talked about the Model T, they did some assembly lines. The one thing that you're looking for is something that you can find pictures of, because that's the problem that you run into is some of the older people, it's hard to find a picture of somebody. So here's Stonewall Jackson. So here's one on Stonewall Jackson. So it talks about, here's somebody who, you know, didn't have a lot of pictures.
No, that would be too interesting.
I had somebody do Kurt Cobain. It's a singer. Nine Inch
I
Nails,
do Justin
wasn't
Bieber,
it?
Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Oh my
do
god.
Justin.
I'm totally kidding. Really?
Yeah.
Should I?
I love
I would hate it, but it'd be so fun.
I'm gonna do Justin
I'm
Bieber.
gonna, no,
Here's-
I'm gonna do Justin Bieber.
Here's one, see, again, this one was done by Ellie last year. She had this, she's a huge fan of lighthouses. So she went through and did a pictorial essay on, well, lighthouse, what it means. And so see, with these neat pictures of different lighthouses when they were first built.
Wait,
So-
it has to be 2 minutes? How long does that have to be?
Usually I tell everybody you should be somewhere between 10 and 15 slides.
I thought you were gonna say minutes, and I freaked out. I was like,
No.
No, it's anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes
okay.
is what you're shooting for, yes.
Are we able to have music playing in the background?
It's hard to have music playing on a PowerPoint presentation.
I can do it.
Usually the music starts with the one slide and then when you move to the next slide, the music
I
goes
can
away.
fix that too.
If you can do it, that's
Like, do we have
fine.
to
Like I said, people have a hard time.
No, you don't have to speak.
I'm gonna do Walt
No.
Disney.
But.
This is not meant for you to speak.
Oh.
So this is meant for you, for your audience to read it.
You guys are gonna have fun.
So we're just gonna sit there and click.
Nice to have a
Yeah.
lot of
Oh, okay.
Okay,
And
so
then wait, well, be prepared, because I might ask you questions.
Oh, okay. Do we have to put it on like a jump drive?
Yes, or you can email it to
Obviously.
me,
Okay, cool.
or you can
It's a
email it
Walt
to me.
Disney. Walt Disney is American, right?
Yes.
So I called him.
I think
No.
Should I do it?
he's kidding, you can't do
Oh!
You can do Beyonce.
No way. That would be too annoying. I should do Michael Jackson. Is he American?
Oh, yes,
I call Michael Jackson.
I called Walt Disney.
Michael Jackson would be a good one.
I'm gonna
Him and Elvis are like the two of the greatest.
I could bring my guitar and just
No,
start
you
singing.
won't.
Yes, you could.
Oh my gosh, can I do that for extra credit? Sing a Michael Jackson song?
Yeah. As long as you get with the off, we can turn it off. Huh? They go up on. One of the things I like to make you guys do work. So that's why you want,
I like those.
that's why I come up with these things, because one, you're gonna work something about it. But at the same time, having fun with it. And then sharing it with.
Do it at say somebody who works here at the chapel.
No.
Okay, I was just curious.
Oh, you wanna do it on Hal?
No, I was just kidding.
No.
I did think of that. How did you like read my mind?
Because I know your dad and I had a conversation about Hal not too long ago.
Oh,
So,
great guy.
yes. So, yeah, here's some, just again, some ideas, and then she threw up a bunch of pictures of the different styles of lighthouses out there. The gorilla, the guy running, find out all the information.
I don't know.
Hey, find out he's a convicted criminal and, you know, he's done this before.
Because people have time for that.
There was this guy who was staying at
Can
my
we go back to the section of quizzes where
kept
we had
talking
to
about
like
how many
odds?
how many
and- That was really helpful.
people brag
Yes,
about
yeah,
about
it
it. You know?
Not that
Ready to go.
But you know what?
Okay.
Hey, I wanna remind you guys, so there's only like 2 of you in this class who are answering those questions with just one word or answering
Okay,
questions.
because I'm so used to it, and I'm just like,
used to doing.
yeah, I
You
tried.
don't have to use
But
complete
it's-
sentences.
But
No,
do I do it?
yeah, oh, see, you weren't here that first day.
Do I
I'm
do it?
confused.
You
I
do
don't
not
know.
have to use complete
Do I do
sentences.
that?
On that.
I
I
don't
just
know.
always forget. And I'm just like, oh yeah.
I've been.
I tried this week, but I don't count. I failed.
Can't not do it.
No, that's shown from,
Oh, wait, for the section, I don't have to use the whole sentence.
you do not have to use the whole thing. This is not English. This is history.
So instead of
What?
like, it only having like
You can have.
Boston, I don't have to say like, it has to be
He had 9
Boston.
seconds.
No, you just say Boston. Boston, Mass. Massachusetts.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Here's my word.
Mr. Chairman, one question.
Yes,
Can you send us an email of an example of pictorial?
yes, I will send you an example.
If,
Which means you cannot do that topic. So I'm gonna send you my one I've got on Disney.
Wait.
I'll send you my example on
Are you
Disney.
sending like
Don't-
a thing out?
You
to
think
say, like, what you have to answer?
No, somebody else did Disney a long, long time ago.
Oh, really? Well, it's okay. I'll just send me a random person and then I'll try. I'll just
Yes.
take my inspiration. from
I
that.
will send you one from way, way back.
Way back in there.
You had a question?
Yeah, are you gonna send out like a thing saying like what we have to answer?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Cause I like it when people do that. I'm like,
Yep, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of here. See you guys
I'm
later.
going to get my jacket.
I'm gonna go get some. Bye, Devin.
I should watch.
Hey, is it on? Is it
Yes, we're still on.
I'm so unlucky.
We go to some liquid.
Okay. Now we're not.